Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. If you are coming into Vancouver's downtown core next weekend, aka Taylor Swift weekend, city officials have shared their plans to make sure things stay calm and organized and move along swiftly. We'll hear about that. Plus, BC Ferries says it may need to hike fares by at least 30% in 5 years. How will that affect you? We'll hear from a ferry user group on the Sunshine Coast. Plus, how do you decorate your home for the holidays? Do you have a special ornament in your home? We'll talk about that after 12:30. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. More than 500,000 people are expected in Vancouver's downtown core next weekend. And not just for pop megastar Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, other events as well. Now, this morning, the City of Vancouver, Vancouver Police, TransLink, and BC Place held a technical briefing with some details around transit service, road closures, and safety measures. There will be road closures around BC Place, designated passenger drop-off and pickup zones, TransLink also adding service with SkyTrain and Canada Line extending hours to just past 1 o'clock, C-bus sailings every 10 minutes, and increased bus service as well. There will also be a fence perimeter around BC Place, open to only ticket holders. So if you're hoping to go outside to tailgate or try to scrounge a last-minute ticket, officials say you won't be able to enter that fence perimeter. Here's part of a media Q&A this morning with BC Place General Manager Chris May.
I know, frankly, that there are thousands and thousands of people coming who don't have tickets. One with the hope to just simply hear the concert, and one to either wait for a last-minute type, catch a deal, or somehow get tickets. Realistically, practically, where should they go? Where can they?
They shouldn't come down to the stadium. That is the clear message to Swifties and to fans, and we're not going to alter from that. If you don't have a ticket, don't come to the Stadium District on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Go to other parts of the city, go celebrate at a party at a friend's house. That is the safest and clearest thing we can say to people. There is no designated outside gathering zone. Our focus is on keeping ticket holders and guests safe. I think the biggest thing is to remember that while these are the three closing shows of the biggest tour in the history of entertainment touring, they aren't the only things happening in Vancouver on that weekend. We have 2 Cirque du Soleil performances on each of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have sold-out Vancouver Canucks games on Friday and on Sunday. And we have a music festival happening at Plaza of Nations on Friday and Saturday. So the really key points are, first of all, if you don't have a ticket to one of those events, don't come down to the Stadium District. Go and explore other parts of the city. Point 2 would be leave yourself lots of time. Expect lineups, expect some congestion. Despite all the planning, there still will be 80 to 85,000 ticket holders alone down here each day. And then the third recommendation would be study and learn that know before you go information like you would for an exam, and that will be put out across all of our social media channels and across all partners, and we would encourage you to really review that multiple times and make sure you understand that, and that will contain everything from prohibited items within the stadium to transportation plans and pickup zones.
That is the general manager of BC Place, Chris May. 12:10 now, and you're with BC Today. Well, BC Ferries CEO Nicholas Jimenez said this week that they have forecasted at least a 30% increase in fares by 2028, and that's just to keep up with inflation and rising costs. In a statement they sent us today, BC Ferries CEO Nicholas Jimenez said, "Our forecast in 2023 was that an approximately 30% fare increase would be needed in 2028 to simply keep up and manage our operating and capital costs. Since that time, inflation and costs have increased even faster across many aspects of our business, and we are facing a growing funding gap as demands on our system increase." He said he has spoken to the new Minister of Transportation, Minister Mike Farnworth, about the challenges they're facing as a company. He also said that new ferries are costing 40% more than 2020 to build. And so we are asking you for your thoughts on that. We did request an interview with Nicholas Jimenez. He was unavailable to join us today. But we are asking for your thoughts. How would a fare increase at least 30% in 2028 affect you? And meanwhile, other BC Ferries news this week, they announced that they're getting rid of all the 13 ferry advisory committees at the end of next April. And these committees have been the way each island has communicated with the company on issues like improvements, challenges, and new projects. This is for the past 3 decades, in addition to other services. They are going to be replaced with new ways of communicating, according to BC Ferries. We want to hear from you. How will a fare increase affect you taking BC Ferries? And what are the service challenges that you have that you'd like to communicate to BC Ferries? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733. And you can also hit pound 690 on your cell phone. If you'd like to email us, we're at bctoday@cbc.ca. Joining me now is Diana Mumford, chair of the Southern Sunshine Coast Committee, and she leads all 13 ferry advisory chair groups. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell me first a little bit about your group and what will next April mean for you?
It means we're no more. Many of us have been advocates for ferry service. It improves ferry service for quite a number of years. We have one gentleman that has been on for almost 20 years on the Ferry Advisory Committee. And we have people that have lived in the communities for up to over 60 years. And so they bring a lot of on the ground knowledge and experience about their community and the needs and what will work best. And all of that will be gone because BC Ferries has told us they appreciated our input and our service. Thank you very much, but we don't need you anymore. And they want to go to a more digital model.
What do you make of that? We're hearing, for example, just with Canada Post, people have found alternatives. Is it just time to modernize? And what BC Ferries is saying, they're entering a new era of engagement. Is that not simply moving with the times?
It is a very superficial way of doing community engagement. It loses that accountability to the communities. And I think it will, they say they want to be more inclusive and broad-based, but in that process, they're excluding people that do not have the capabilities either through internet or that they want to deal with an internet medium to not to be able to communicate to BC Ferries. So it's excluding as many people as it might be newly including, and that's not sitting well with our communities because we have a lot of expertise, and we also have that credibility, I think, with our communities in that we understand what they're saying and we try to take that to BC Ferries and present it in that way. And the people in our community also, sometimes they come to us with questions and we say, well, have you thought about this? And this is why BC Ferries is doing this. So we try to advocate for BC Ferries as well. So we act in a two-way manner. And I'm not sure that's going to be not going to be as successful on an online engagement pop-up things is what we're being told, but they don't really know. We were told on Monday, they don't really know which way what the final product will look like, but they are talking digital.
And have you been told about this proposed fare increase?
Not by BC Ferries, but we've definitely heard it, and it's not a new piece for us. BC Ferries is one of the transportation pieces in the province, struggles for funding, and just like TransLink or any others that are in the province. And I think it's ferries are our roadway and our transportation mode. Others have buses or roads. So it is a broad prospect. And I'm hoping that with a new minister and a new government, that we are able to move forward. 30% seems awfully high, but is that the sort of like the first shot? And then we go from there, because you always start high and then negotiate to where it's going to be most feasible. But 30% on our fees would not be it's not only the people moving it back and forth, but it's all of our goods that would be an extreme impact on everybody.
Okay. Diana Mumford is with me, and she's chair of the Southern Sunshine Coast Ferry Advisory Committee, Southern Sunshine Coast Committee, and also leads the 13 ferry advisory groups. And as we've heard, those will be dismantled come April. BC Ferries saying they're heading into a new era of communication and engagement. This was announced just in the last few days. And as well, in this past week, the CEO of BC Ferries, Nicholas Jimenez, has been talking about a proposed 30%, at least 30% increase in fares in 2028, by 2028. And what we heard as well is that 30% is according to forecasting from last year, 2023. And they haven't done any updated forecasting, but since that time, they say their costs and inflation have increased even faster. And so they're looking at least a 30% increase in 2028. What would that mean for you? And what are the current challenges for people who rely on BC Ferries? You can call us 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733. And you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. I'm told we're having some trouble with the phone lines right now, and some of them are not working. And so we're working to get them all going again, but we are limited in the number of calls we can get right now. So my apologies if you're trying to get through to us and reach us over the phone. You may be getting an error message. Please try again. You can also send your thoughts over email. That's bctoday@cbc.ca. We do have Remy on the line in Chilliwack now. Hi, Remy.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I am fine. Thanks so much for calling.
Good. So I just wanted to talk about the increase. And so if we're getting increased for the in 2028, I myself, I would like to see better ferry service. Like normally on every weekend, long weekend, there's like a ferry out and there's people waiting and backlogs at the terminal and stuff. So what I'd like to see from BC Ferries is a guarantee that, if they're going to make that 30% hike, that we would get some better service out of them instead of every long weekend, waiting to go somewhere in a big backlog lineup.
Yeah. Remy, and that's happened to you over a long weekend?
Yeah, it happens quite often. It never fails. It's consistently always like that, and even in the other media, it's always reported that there's a ferry out or there's a ferry broken or something like that. So I think the public would probably like to see that these issues are, if we're going to be paying 30% increase, that these issues can be addressed more appropriately, and that we pay for the service. So we should be entitled to better service on long weekends.
Remy, thank you so much for calling in. I know 2023 really saw a lot of challenges over the long weekends. Things seem to improve in 2024. What do you make of that? How much of an improvement is needed, Diana, when it comes to especially preparing for busy holiday travel? It looks like some of this increased fares will go toward building new vessels, and an aging fleet was one of the issues that led to cancellations and things like that.
That's right. And we sort of watch the long weekends come and wonder which boat is going to have issues on that particular weekend. And in response to Remy, the challenges is not only on long weekends, but now it's any day of the week, because the weekends seem to have stretched both directions. And so we face that quite regularly. Our on-time performance on our route is under 70%. So you've got about a 1 in 3 chance of actually getting to where you want to go on the time you want to. And I think the message that I heard from the CEO is that 30% would be to maintain their current process. And so that isn't in the adding of new services. And it is vital because, our ships are getting very old, and we need more ships that will service, because the long waits, the 2 or 3 sailing waits, is just, it's really challenging in the summer, but also on the shoulder seasons as well. So it is spreading not only through the week, but through the year. And it is a vital need for not only the communities, but for the tourists and people that want to visit.
We have an email from June who writes, for people who live on the island, it should be reduced or free, as it is part of our highway. And Doug writes us, we've lived on the Sunshine Coast for 15 years and have virtually no complaints about the ferries. When we moved here, we knew that occasionally there would be sailing waits and very rarely mechanical issues. The service is on the whole efficient and reliable, with very competent and helpful crews. As for ferry fees, I often wonder, what about the budget shortfall with, say, the Coquihalla Highway or Highway 1 through the Fraser Canyon? Logically, the ferries are no less a fundamental transportation network than our highway system, but we have no tolls on the highways. I'll be happy with ferry fee increases when the government puts tolls on highways and bridges. Sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Okay, so both they're making the argument for free travel for people who rely on these fares. How much of that is even part of the conversation, Diana? With the
it won't be part of the conversation, and I think I've had people say to me, well, you chose to live on where you need to use a ferry, so it's your fault, and I find that really hard to swallow, because I think we should have the opportunity to live where we want to in this beautiful province, wherever that is, and whatever way you need to get to and from that place. Free fares, I don't think is going to wash in any way, shape, or form, but we do need service that meets the needs of our communities. And maybe we need to be looking at, what do we need on those boats? Are they putting bells and whistles on it that aren't necessary? Our route is 40 minutes. I don't need a restaurant. I just need to get from point A to point B. So, I think there's opportunities for reevaluating what we're getting, but we definitely need the service. And I'm glad people are finding it successful traveling on our ferry. Some of us do and some of us don't, and I travel fairly regularly. So there are times when it runs very, very well, and other times not so much. The frontline staff are, on the most part, they are fabulous. They do what they have to do, and they do it to help their neighbors and people that live around them. And so I have nothing against the frontline workers at all. They do an amazing job keeping these boats going for all of us. So kudos to them.
We are hearing from island residents right now, too. Helen is on the line from Gabriola. Hi, Helen. What are your thoughts about a fare increase?
Hi. Well, the point that I really wanted to make about it is about the quality of island communities and how the ferry affects that. So I actually work on Vancouver Island, but I live on Gabriola, like a lot of people who live on Gabriola do, unless they're retired. And what people miss, I think, is that those communities are enriched by the money that people who work off the island bring back to the island and spend in our markets, spend in our restaurants, spend in our supermarket. If people like me can't live on those islands because the ferry fares become prohibitive and the service becomes very poor, that means those communities are going to end up, families aren't going to live there. I mean, from Gabriola, we have all our secondary school students have to travel to Vancouver Island to Nanaimo for school. And the seniors who live on our island will be the only people who can live there because they don't have to get anywhere, particularly by paying the ferry. But a community can't be sustained like that. We have a very vibrant community on Gabriola, all sorts of ages, all sorts of people. And we also have a lot of vendors, a lot of people who grow food, a lot of people who are making stuff. And that money that comes from outside, as well as taxation money, property taxes and stuff, helps to enrich our community. And without the ferry, communities will be degraded by that.
Yeah, it's kind of circular. The ferry feeds into the community vibrancy, and then that community feeds into fair use. Helen,
really does, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the call from Gabriela. Nice to hear from you. Diana, we now hear that, that there's, as you mentioned, a new Minister of Transportation, Mike Farnworth. What do you hope moving forward to hear from the province?
Well, I'm hoping that they start investigating an opportunity for a new model for funding for ferries and transportation pieces, because I think it is so important. And as Helen said, she talked about the, people traveling back and forth, the commuters to the places, and they do. On the Sunshine Coast, we have a fair number of people that commute from the Sunshine Coast into Vancouver to work. But on the other side of it, and she said only the retired people would be left on Gabriola. Well, they would probably leave too, because if our groceries cost so much that we can't afford them, then we're not going to want to stay where we are as well. So that is going to decimate that part of the population. So it will really significantly impact all of the residents in our communities. And there's got to be a better way to do this. These boats are very important to us.
Diana, thank you very much. Good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Diana Mumford, chair of the Southern Sunshine Coast Committee. 12:27 now. Now, next Friday, December the 6th, it's a big day here at CBC. That is our annual CBC British Columbia fundraiser in support of food banks in the province. The new name is Make the Season Kind, and it is your chance to make the season kind. Make a kind donation to one of the 108 food banks in British Columbia. And from 12 to 3, from noon to 3, I'll be hosting a special edition of BC Today, 3 hours live right outside the CBC building here in downtown Vancouver. It will be busy, as you heard. I'll be on stage on our outdoor plaza with Margaret Gallagher, host of North by Northwest. We will have some special guests as well. Jennifer Robertson, you know her as Jocelyn Schitt on Schitt's Creek. Also the host of Great Canadian Pottery Throwdown, Chef Bruno Feldisen, host of the Great Canadian Baking Show. Maybe we can get Jennifer to bake and Bruno to make some pottery. There's a thought. So lots coming up. Amazing live music as well. Michael Case-Hammer, David Steinmetz, and the Jack Garton Band. So lots of fun and festivities. 3 hours for us on the coast after us. And as you know, that will be the first of the Taylor Swift's concerts in Vancouver as well. So if you are in town for that or any of the other events taking place Friday, December the 6th, come on down and see us right outside our building here at the Outdoor Plaza. All of that to raise funds again for food banks in BC. It's called Make the Season Kind. You can make your donation right now as well. Just go to cbc.ca/kindbc. You'll find the Donate Now button there, and you'll find a drop-down menu so you can choose which food bank to donate to. Again, that's cbc.ca/kindbc. This is BC Today. We're live on Radio 1, CBC Television, live streaming as well on cbc.ca/BC and on our streaming service, CBC BC. Well, coming up in our next half hour, we are going to get into the holiday spirit. Have you decorated your home yet? And let us know what your holiday aesthetic is. What's your approach to decorating your home for the holidays? Do you like things to be monochromatic? Do you like a pop of color here and there or just everywhere? Do you do tinsel? Let us know. And let us know as well if you have a special ornament that just gives you the warm and fuzzies every time you take it out of the box and put it on your tree. I'd love to hear about that coming up in our next half hour. We're going to hear from someone who actually designs hand-blown ornaments that represent Vancouver landmarks, really beautiful ones too. So we'll have that conversation coming up after this CBC News update. And here now is Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. A 34-year-old Cranbrook man is facing several charges after allegedly causing a deadly accident on Canada Day last year while impaired. A man was killed and his wife injured after Houston Seymour's vehicle crossed the center line and collided head-on with their SUV. Investigators say speed was also a factor. Vancouver City Council has voted to keep a ban on natural gas in new homes. The proposed bylaw changes, which were supported by Mayor Ken Sim, would have reversed current climate-friendly practices. In the end, the motion was defeated in a 5-5 vote. A motion needs a majority to pass. And health officials say a hiker who was missing for 5 weeks in the wilds of northern BC is doing well. Northern Health says Sam Benestick's family has authorized them to release a statement on the hiker's condition, saying he is recovering at Fort Nelson General Hospital. Benestick had plans for a 10-day camping and fishing trip in the area, but wasn't seen for 50 days. And now the forecast. Snowfall warnings continue for several sections of the province, including the Caribou, Southern Peace, and Prince George. Up to 15 centimeters is expected in some areas. On the north coast, rain this afternoon with strong winds and a high of 6. Highs from -5 to +2 and mainly cloudy in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, mainly cloudy with a high of 2 as well. And cloudy this afternoon in the Fraser Valley. A bit of sunshine in Metro Vancouver and Greater Victoria with highs around 6. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Rob, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Well, as we heard on the program yesterday, negotiations have broken down between Canada Post and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon called both parties to a meeting yesterday. He's currently in Vancouver, and he spoke to the Early Edition's Stephen Quinn for more on how that meeting went and to discuss whether back-to-work legislation is an option for this labour dispute.
I told them that the current state of affairs was unacceptable. It's reasonably unprecedented for a mediator to suspend mediation and to conclude that parties were not taking these issues seriously and not making the kinds of compromises necessary to get an agreement.
Ports stop working, we see back-to-work legislation. If the railways stop, we see back-to-work legislation. Why are we not seeing back-to-work legislation when it comes to the shipment of goods across the country?
Well, back-to-work legislation or any other method results in arbitration.
Yes.
And the issues that are inherent in this particular dispute are not ones that are easily, to coin a word, arbitratable. They are, in many cases, binary choices about scheduling, about weekend delivery, about issues that are not easily sawed in half, which is what arbitrators tend to do with collective agreements. So, as you saw in the ports dispute or in the rail dispute, you know, we're not to say that there weren't serious issues at the table. There were, but these ones are in another category of being utterly transformational for the corporation and ones that need to be agreed upon by the party.
.12:34 now, and you're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Very happy to be with you this afternoon. And in a few moments, we will take your calls asking you about your holiday ornaments. Is there a special one that you hold dear to your heart that just gives you joy every time you take it out and unwrap it and put it on your tree? We want to hear about that meaningful ornament. And what is your approach to holiday decorating? We're taking your calls, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or you can hit pound 690. And we are getting your calls as well. A little bit slower right now, but please do try again if you get an error message. But our phone lines are working at half capacity, it sounds like. So do keep trying if you'd like to get on the show. We'll go to your calls in a couple of minutes. But first, Make the Season Kind is the new name for our annual CBC British Columbia event in support of food banks. And we do have a special day of programming planned for next Friday, December the 6th, all designed to support the 108 food banks in this province. And I'll be co-hosting a special 3-hour edition of BC Today, along with North by Northwest host Margaret Gallagher. We're going to have live music, great guests, and lots of special energy that day because that is the first of the 3 Taylor Swift concerts at BC Place Stadium, just around the corner from us here at CBC. And so if you are downtown for that event or any other event, you can come on by and see us right outside our building, right at the outdoor plaza, and all of it to support fellow citizens like this.
Hello, my name is Ivan. I registered in the food bank in February, I guess. The office told me that I needed to wait a 6 months period so I can register and start using the benefit. So far, it's been so helpful, and I'm really grateful for it. Oh, because the housing crisis, it's really bad right now. We arrived here and realized that unfortunately there's so many migrant people living in Canada, in BC, so that gives us a really hard time. Our salary, it's not enough to buy our food from the superstores or anything. I work in landscaping. That's the only job that I could work, that I find. It's really hard to find a job right now. So it's a really hard work, but it's around 3,000 per month. Yeah, it's really low, and so that's before taxes. I came here with my wife. My wife is also struggling. She's an engineer, but she works in a kitchen. So it's the way it is, right? We need to make our way through. We hope that next year can be better, and with all the new regulations that the government are implementing. So I guess that can benefit for the people who stay here, right?
Many thanks to Ivan for sharing his story. And next Friday, December the 6th, is the 38th annual CBC British Columbia Special Day of Programming in support of food banks around the province. Our campaign's new name is Make the Season Kind, and you don't have to wait till then to make a contribution. You can go right now to cbc.ca/kindbc. Just click on Donate Now, and you can choose the food bank of your choice to donate to from the drop-down menu. And again, that's cbc.ca/kindbc, and you'll receive a tax receipt after that. Many thanks to Joanne, who emailed us about holiday ornaments. And she writes, I began collecting Hallmark ornaments in 1977. Too many favorites to pick just one. Joanne actually sent us a photo, one close-up of the ornaments, so you get a closer look at all of them. They're intricate and beautiful, and then a large one of a wide shot of the tree itself. It is bursting with ornaments. I see a gingerbread house, all different kinds of snowmen, a reindeer, rocking horse, and Santa Clauses of all kinds. Good on you. And Joanne says as well that every year I unwrap the ornaments. It is like the Christmas that keeps on giving. So thank you very much for that. That sounds delightful, Joanne, and your tree is stunning. I'd love to hear from you. What are the ornaments that mean a lot to you, and how do you decorate your home for the holidays? If you have any tips to share, you can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 as well. We're joined by Rhonda Noack, who's the founder and owner of Vancouver Christmas Ornaments. And she designs blown glass Vancouver and BC themed Christmas ornaments. You know, think Science World, sockeye salmon, or a Pacific dogwood hanging from your tree. And Rhonda joins me now from her home in Vancouver. Hello there.
Hi, Michelle.
I was going to ask if you have already put your tree up. I see it behind you there.
I put it up last night for you.
We prompted you, did we?
Yes.
I see. It's gorgeous.
It's probably going to get really busy after this, so I thought I better get up now.
Well, that's it. Exactly. We did you a favor. It looks bright and colorful. Lots of lights I see there, Rhonda.
Yes, the more lights, the better.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the secret to a beautiful tree, actually.
So tell me about Christmas decorating. Why is it such a big deal to you?
we've always done it like from the time I was a kid. Like my dad and I would go out and get the tree together. He's a logger, so we would truck through the snow and get the tree, put it up. My mom had ornaments from her grandparents and from her mom. It was just something that we did in our home, and I thought everybody went Christmas crazy. I thought everybody decorated their house like that. And then I realized that actually, no, I do this a little more
extra.
than people.
Well, what does it mean to you then to see an ornament in front of you?
I love it. Like your last person that you talked about on air there. Like when I open up an ornament, I think it brings back all the memories of what that was. Like, was that someone that gave it to me? Was it a trip that I was on where I picked it up? Did it come from my grandmother? So when you decorate your tree, it's just bringing back all of those memories. And yeah, it's really special. And yeah, it's like they become part of the family.
You know, it's true. I have to say, like, decorating the tree has always been a big deal in our house. A little less so now, a little less sort of fun and festivities because my kids are now older. So they're a little more, I don't know, cynical. But at one point it was like clamoring to get those decorations. But I was doing our tree over the weekend and just pulling out, oh my goodness, I remember getting this when we were over in Alaska. I remember this one was made by my daughter in kindergarten. And so it brings you so much warmth and knowing that it only happens once a year, right? You only unwrap this once a year. It's such a special moment. And for you, you are making actual landmarks of Vancouver and BC. I love them. The Gastown steam clock, for example. What led you to doing that?
Well, whenever I go on a vacation, I like to pick up an ornament from the place that I've been. And it could even be just a business trip or something like that. I like to get an ornament that is specific to that region. And, not something that you could get anywhere that just has, the stamped imprint of whatever the city name is on it, but you could get that same ornament anywhere. So I wanted something that was specific. And in places like New York or Chicago or like really big cities, you can usually find those. But there are a lot of places where you just cannot find something that represents where you've been. And so I thought, you know what, if I'm having trouble finding those ornaments when I travel, I bet you people are having a difficult time finding them when they come here. And so I thought, well, why don't I do that? Why don't I find them? And it had been mulling in my brain for quite some time. And then, at work, I was, stressed out and I needed a creative outlet. And I said, well, I'm just going to do it. So I tried and people loved them. And what surprised me, though, was I thought that this was going to be for tourists. And really the people who love these ornaments are the locals. Wow. Because it reminds of home, right? And people who have grown up here and maybe moved away and they've got a little piece of Vancouver on their Christmas tree and those memories. So
they are lovely. Do you have any with you right now?
I do. This is my new one for this year. Oh. This is the Harbor Center.
Harbor Center with the observation deck on top.
Yes, and the red elevators. That's a nod to the 80s. Because they're blue right now, but I thought red is more Christmassy, so we got an 80s Harbor Center.
I love that. That's one. And it's gold.
Yes, like you gotta use your imagination a little bit because I say it's the sun setting on the building.
There you go.
So this was last year's, and this is the Vancouver Special, and this was a hot item last year. It sold. Normally, I buy enough or produce enough that I could have enough for 3 years, and I sold out in 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
And people who love this is anybody who's lived in a Vancouver Special wants one of these. And it's also just kind of a pop culture thing now too. Like people just, it was outlawed in 1988 because they were so ugly or considered that. Now everybody loves them. So,
That's so true. Talk about a throwback to the 80s. I mean, that brings me right back to, traveling down Vancouver streets. You see the rows of Vancouver Specials. I mean, that is niche. That is really niche.
Oh, absolutely. And especially like it's East Van and Marple. Those are the two regions where you get most. But I'm getting people buying them from everywhere because they've moved away. And it's, again, this little memory of their first home. And so the most popular one this year is actually one from several years ago. And I don't know why, but all of a sudden everybody wants the water taxi.
The Falls Creek water taxi.
Yes.
That is beautiful. And you've got the little windows and everything.
The windows and then the little life preserver on the top. All of the designs have to be simplified a little bit just to be able to blow them in glass. But this one I did so that it could be see-through and you could actually see through the windows to the other side.
That's amazing. They look like little stained glass windows. I wonder, because there was a sighting of an orca right beside a water taxi. You're going to have an orca as well, just right beside, hanging right beside that. Years. Yeah.
and then this is the perennial favorite. This is the Gastown steam clock.
Of course.
And
bronze.
Yes, it's popular both with tourists and with locals. It's very elegant. So if you have an elegant tree, this is one for that. And then I have 10 different ornaments.
Yeah.
I don't have them all here, but everybody likes a different one just depending on who you are and what interests you.
Yeah, if you lived in a Vancouver special. I had some friends who did, so that brings me right back. Let's put out the numbers again. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. They are working. So do call us and let us know what ornaments are most meaningful to you. Just don't hit pound 690, as that is the line that's not working. But the 1-800 number and the 669-3733, you can get right through, as well as on our email. And we have lots of great emails coming in. Jan writes, my favorite ornament is not an ornament per se, but it's my grandmother's vintage 18-inch ceramic tree with lights that she made 40 plus years ago. Oh, when I went back east to pack up my mother's house, that is the one item I had to bring back with me. I could not wait to put it out this year. Oh, that's so amazing. It brings back many memories, Jan writes. Thank you very much. Lovely. Dawn writes as well, I have 3 hand-beaded stars from my pen pal of 45 years in South Africa. She sent them to me about 25 years ago, and they always make me think of her and how one day I will travel to Cape Town to meet her. We corresponded by handwritten letter for a very long time, and then by email, and then we started on Facebook Messenger. Wow, to think that you have a pen pal for 45 years. And there it is, an ornament, 3 ornaments to remind you of your longtime pen pal. That is lovely, Dawn. Mina writes, I wait until a few days before Christmas and gather windfall branches to tie together to make a tree. Oh, that's great. Ecologically minded as well. Meg writes, I grew up in Nova Scotia, and every year my mom gives me a new commemorative holiday ornament that is made by Amos Pewter in Mahone Bay. Each year they release a special ornament. And this year my son is building a custom display case so we can display our favorites. Oh my goodness, get your son involved as well. That is wonderful, Meg. Thank you very much. bctoday@cbc.ca is our email address. What's going through your mind listening to these, Rhonda?
Oh, well, yeah, it's beautiful. Like when people buy ornaments from me, they tell me their stories too. So I hear so many of these stories. I hear about the people who worked at Woodward's when they were a kid. Or parents took them to the windows to window shop or see the displays. So yeah, I think for me that's one of the best parts of this business is hearing people's stories.
Wow. And how do you feel thinking that your designs are sitting in someone's tree somewhere and helping them light up their holidays?
It just brings me a lot of joy. Yeah. I mean, it brings me joy. It makes me happy.
We have a caller now, and let's just wait for the name to pop up here. Again, our number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And Basil is on the line from Port Coquitlam. Hi, Basil.
Thanks a lot for this program, and thanks for these lovely ideas for Christmas decorations. You know, my wife brings these out, and it's my favorite, and I just love them. Two coyotes with their mouths wide open and their song sheets in front of them, singing their hearts out, Christmas carols. And I just thought, boy, how much joy does animals bring to our lives, and especially children. Well, we're all that part of our childhood in us. We love animals. And so let's do something for the animals at Christmas, and let's be generous in looking after every animal in the world and do what we can for the environment to help the animals.
What a great way to look at it, and using it as your ornaments as a reminder of being passionate about protecting animals and creatures, Basil. Thank you very much. And that just brought a giggle to me, thinking about two coyotes singing Christmas carols. There's such a whimsy to ornaments, isn't there? What do you think, Rhonda?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. Yeah. And you'll find joy in whatever ornament that you have with that memory. But there are some really cute ones too. Like we have, I have a taxi with Santa waving out of it from New York. Similar ones when I went to San Francisco, we got the streetcar, and I really like color and fun. So that's why I have a multicolored tree. And I think when the kids were little, that was really fun too. But you can do your tree with that kind of whimsy, or you can do something that's really elegant too. Really just depends what your style is.
And now, what are your own tips for decorating the tree, and how to distribute to the different types of ornaments that you have?
Oh, well, one of the things that I like to do is I put all my ornaments out before I put anything on the tree. And I take the big ornaments and put those kind of on the bottom to the mid-level of the tree. And then the mid-size ornaments, they can go kind of like anywhere on the tree, but then I reserve the smaller ornaments for the top. And then you just get a nice proportion throughout the tree. And I find that just is pleasing to the eye. The other thing that I like to do is sometimes do little groupings. So for example, I'll have a whale ornament and a fish ornament and a narwhal all kind of together. My husband's a musician, so I'll do a grouping of musical instruments kind of in one section of the tree. So I like to do those little themes with the specific ornaments. And then with the colored balls and the simple ones, I like to distribute those evenly throughout the tree. And one of the things is reserving the long branches for your longer ornaments so that they can hang and dangle and kind of like swirl a little bit if there's movement, as opposed to laying flat on the tree. You don't want, because then you lose the movement and you lose the sparkle when they move. So those are a few tips.
That's right. That's something that is a little pet peeve of mine when I'm putting up an ornament and I can tell that it's just abutting a branch rather than off on its own being able to twirl. I need to move it. It just bugs me. And I know you also say that the non-breakables should go on the bottom.
I put non-breakables on the bottom for three reasons. We had a dog for many years, and she loved the Christmas tree, and her tail would wag, and she would knock ornaments off. So there was a dog. And then we had the kids, right? And it's really hard to get them not to touch what's on the bottom. So I like putting the non-breakables on the bottom as well. But even at Christmas Day, when you're pulling ornaments or your presents in and out from under the tree, you don't want to be knocking them off and breaking them because, those are treasures. So put those non-breakables on the bottom and, you don't have to worry about it.
That is really interesting. I logically in my head, I thought, oh, why would you do that? I would think you'd want them up top, but that makes a lot of sense if you got people and if you have a busy Christmas Eve or something like that, just someone just bumping into it.
Brushing into the side. Like my sister broke some ornaments, and then she felt so badly. She bought me a 6 unbreakables that I could replace and put on the bottom.
Yeah, you laid a guilt trip on her, did you?
I didn't, but she laid it on herself. So.
And what about tinsel? What is your stance on tinsel?
Oh, well, my husband and I have this big disagreement. I like the old-fashioned tin icicles. Then they have the swirl. I can pick one off the tree here to show you. So these are the old-fashioned kind, and they're usually made out of tin, and so they're very soft. This particular one is a reproduction. So this, a number of years ago, Restoration Hardware did some reproduction ones, but I also had about 2 or 3 dozen from my mom that she gifted to me. So I prefer those, and I put those on the tree. And my husband loves tinsel because that's what the tree he grew up. So we have this deal that every other year I'll do tinsel for him. And then on my year, we do the icicles instead. So
what year is it this year? It's your year.
It's my year.
He has to wait a whole nother year to get his tinsel. Yeah. That's a good compromise, though. It's a good compromise. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I also find the tinsel to be a little bit difficult. Like, you always get it bunched up and taking it off. And then if you want to use it, like I always use it for the next year, like we don't throw it out. I know some people do that because it's hard to handle, but I don't like doing that.
Yeah,
so
you
have to be really careful with pulling it off and keeping the strands together so that they don't tangle.
And is he assigned to doing that?
Yes.
Yes.
If he puts the tinsel on, he takes the tinsel off.
It's the price to pay. I don't see any macaroni. Do I see any macaroni angels? Okay, I've got some.
Well, you know what? I have a whole separate tree for all the homemade ornaments.
Oh, wonderful.
I have 3 trees in my home. This one has everything that's shiny. And then I have a tree that's all the homemade or wooden ornaments that I've collected. And then I have a little tiny one that I have that with my own designed ornaments as well.
Oh, okay. I believe I buried the headline. I'm talking to someone with 3 Christmas trees. You have just started us on the road to the holiday spirit, Rhonda. Thank you so, so much.
Well, Merry Christmas. It's not too early.
No. Okay, I'll start too. Merry Christmas to you. That's Rhonda Nowak, the founder and owner of Vancouver Christmas Ornaments. And thank you for all your emails. I can see them still coming in. bctoday@cbc.ca. Now, tomorrow on the show, we will continue getting into the holiday spirit. We are going to talk about holiday movies and ask you what your favorites are. We're actually going to be joined by a couple of people, actors and directors who are involved with Hallmark films. Yes, you know the ones. You can admit it. You watch them. You enjoy them. Many are filmed here in BC. So we'll be joined by 2 people involved with them, and we'll ask for your favorite holiday movies. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks for joining us. Have a great afternoon.